Hello everyone. Today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how to make some monkey fists and to finish off your monkey fists, because that's something which doesn't really get talked about a whole lot and is, in my opinion, more relevant than most people give it credit for. So I'm going to show you how to make a monkey fist, and then I'm going to give you 4 different ways to finish it in ways that I've used in animal enclosures and with varying animals, and we'll have a little discuss about the pros and cons of each one in each situation. So I'm going to be using 6mm manila, which is this stuff. So it's 3-strand manila rope. It's perfectly safe for animal use, and I'm using it because, well, I like manila for animal enclosures, and 6mm is cheap. So first things first is we're going to need to be making up our monkey fist. So firstly, you need to make sure that you have enough rope, is always a critical point. So what I would do is I'd just put the rope in your hand like that, and you make a very loose coil once, twice, 3 times, okay? So you can see that it's got 3 times. Then you take that, you pinch it, bend it, you run it all the way back along once, and then back along a second time. My coil is an absolute mess, I do apologise. So that is the amount of rope that we will be needing for our monkey fist. Dependent on how you finish it, you might want a little bit more extra on the end, so we're just going to go back 20 centimeters or so. Now, I used to use a lot of electrical tape to temporarily seize ropes, but I'm not overly keen on the amount of plastic as a result. And if you're going to be finishing your ropes with a splice or anything, so it is legitimately only temporary, you shouldn't really be needing anything more hard wearing than a little bit of tape, just to stop at the ends fraying while you're working. Okay, so we've got our rope, and now it's time to quickly make a monkey fist. So you start by having it coming out the top of your hand and around the back, and you're going to go once, twice, 3 times. And you know you've done it 3 times because if you put either end off to the side, there's only 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. And now we're going to hold it from the bottom, and we're going to take it round once, twice, 3 times. And now that we've taken it around 3 times, we're going to take our bitter end, and we're going to then run it into the middle there, round the back, and up through the bottom hole. And we're going to do it once, twice, try and keep your coil straight, because otherwise it kinks and it won't make a very pretty monkey fist at the end. So it's twice, and then 3rd time's the charm. And you can now see, before we tighten it up, that I've got 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So it already looks a little bit like a monkey fist now, and we've just got to tighten it up and make it neat. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to make a stopper knot that's going to go in the middle. So I'm just doing a double overhand, which I now realise I really didn't show you very well because I did it so quickly. But basically, I'll do it again. Take your finger, you loop it once round your finger, once round your finger, twice round your finger, take your finger out, and you put the bitter end back through that same hole, right? And then you tighten it up. And that makes just a nice little lumpy stopper knot to put in the center of your monkey fist. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to pop that, bury it, is the term that I know of it as. And now we'll just very gently start to work it in. Now, kind of a mistake that a lot of people make when they're first learning monkey fists is that they try and take all the slack out all at once. I think that is a very difficult and not necessarily the best way of doing it, because you often wind up with a uneven monkey fist. So it's better to take your time with it and just work it in. Nice and slowly. And if you've got to do it 3 or 4 times, then you've got to do it 3 or 4 times to bring all the tension in. But I feel that our animals deserve beautiful enrichment, and that's kind of my intention to give them, for the sake of an extra couple of minutes. So we now find the end again, and we're just going to pull it in even tighter now. So that's it, getting a bit more into shape now, and I think maybe 1 or maybe 2 more times round, and it'll be done. Okay, so there's your monkey fist. Like, you could use that straight off the bat in an enclosure, but for me, for my liking, it is still a bit loose, and depending on the animal you put it with, there's a strong possibility they might be able to pull it apart again. So I'm just going to do it once more, and I'm going to use a spike. You can use something like a fid. You can even use like a flat-headed screwdriver to tension them down. It's whatever you've got to hand. I have a lot of gear, so I'm going to use a spike. Okay, so now it is pretty hard. You'd be hard pressed to pick it apart, and that's the sort of hardness that I look for when I'm making something to go into an enclosure. So with this one, all we're going to do is it's going to be very basic, and we're just going to do a simple eye splice on it. I'm not going to run through the eye splice in too technical a term here, because splicing is a story for another video. But obviously when you measure out your rope for a monkey fist, you've also got to take into account the end that you want to do on it, and how long you want it to be. You know, if you want it to hang 10 feet down from top of an enclosure, you're going to need to take that into account. Otherwise, you're going to have to be mucking about with adding length on, using long splices and short splices or bends, and it's just effort that's not really necessary. So I'm just going to do a really quick eye splice here, and I'll show you the end result. Okay, so that's an eye splice onto the end of a monkey fist. This is normally my preferred method if I'm making a monkey fist for a zoo or for an animal, just because you can hang it. You can also use something like a carabiner. This is not the size of carabiner I'd normally use, but for this. But you can use it with a carabiner, and you can kind of choke it. So you can put it around a branch or something like that, and then choke it down so that there's no loop that something can get caught in and strangle itself. It's just a very versatile way of finishing a monkey fist. And basic splicing rules apply. Just standard 3-strand splice, and I usually go an extra few tucks than what would necessarily be needed for security, just because I know what it's like. People bang these things around, people throw them about, animals obviously rip them to bits, and you want there to be a little bit more give in it than there might be on, I don't know, if you were rigging on a wooden sailing ship or something like that, and you were using natural fibre, they'd only want you to use 3 tucks. But then you could seize it. Because we're not seizing it, because we don't have any little bits of string that the animals might choke on, I'll just do a few extra tucks just to give yourself peace of mind. So that's the first one. Our next one, we will be doing another splice. We'll be doing a short splice. So I'll quickly make up a monkey fist and I'll get back to you. Okay, so this is my second monkey fist. And you can see we're going to do this one a little bit differently, because we're not going to bury one of the ends this time. We're going to keep both ends out, and we're going to want to have roughly about half and half sticking out either end. It's not tremendously essential with this much rope. I've got quite a lot of rope here, so I'm not going to need all of it for what I'm going to do. But yeah, you want to have good length out either end. I would say if you've got that much sticking out either end, that's more than enough. Okay, so that's what? 30 centimetres a foot. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so now that it's nice and tight, we're going to cut him off. Yeah, we're going to cut him off about here, and we're going to do what's known as a short splice. So a short splice is used for joining 2 ropes together, where it's not essential that it stays the same width all the way down. With that you'd use a long splice, but we don't have the space for a long splice, and it's not really necessary for this. So basically we're going to unreeve the rope until we get to where we're going to want half of our ring to be, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a little ring. So that's probably about as small as we're going to be able to get it. So we're just going to make sure we bring the other side down now. From a structural standpoint, it's not essential that they be the same, exactly the same length, but for my personal liking, I much prefer it if they're neat and symmetrical. Okay, and that is Among Fist finished with a short splice. I use this on obviously a larger scale, usually when I'm making dog toys, because it gives a good handle, or sometimes the dogs like to hold it by the splice instead. Either way, it works well. You can also put like weights in this. Depending on the animal, you can put things like bags of sand in to lump it down. I make door stops on larger scales like this, which are very popular. So there's lots of things that you can do with this. You can even put you can even chain it up and hang it, so that you don't have to worry about having a long tail all the time like you do with the eye spliced one. You can just loop something round, hang it up, and hold it like that. So those are the two splices. We're now going to look at a way to make a similar loop to that, but in a different way, without splicing. So I will get that ready, and I will be back to you. Okay, so this one, I don't want to say it's the most awkward, most difficult one to do, but it's probably the most awkward, just because it's very fiddly. It is very fiddly. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to take off these ends because they're no good to us now. But I don't know if you can see, but on my last pass through, I went through the middle and it came out so both the ends are coming out of the same hole. Okay? And I'm going to just cut off these just to make life easier for us while we're working. And we're going to do what's known as a bend. It's a very poor bend, but it is technically a bend. And we're going to be tying an overhand knot in there. And we're going to be tying an overhand knot in there. And then we're going to be pulling them, although I've done that one the wrong way, I don't know if you can tell, but if I do it underneath and out that way, that should run a bit better. Yes. Okay, so you can see got these two lines. We're going to try and pull them up as nice and tight as we can, and then we're going to slide them together. This is like if you're making like an adjustable necklace for someone. This is very similar to how you would do that. So we pulled it tight. It's not going to go anywhere, and this is going to be our central core. So it's going to form the same function as that double overhand did on the eye splice. Sorry, I completely lost my words there. It's early in the morning for me, and it is a Sunday, so cut me some slack. So we've cut it out so that we've got as little showing as possible, and now we're going to push that back in. But what is important is that you don't lose this end, because you want that end to still be there by the end of it all. So we're going to start to pull in the tension now. And the thing to remember with this is that the tighter you pull it, the longer the actual kind of eye at the end is going to be. So just bear that in mind. That's why you want to try and make it as tight as possible before you actually start burying the end in. You can see I've still got my finger tucked through that initial end, just to keep it and make sure that it doesn't go walkies. So tension it up. And I think that is right. So you can see we're going to wind up with a pretty big tail here, which is fine if you're going to be using it for throwing or something of that ilk. That's absolutely fine. You've just got to obviously be aware that any big loops in like a non-domestic setting is just a risk for choking and throttling. Which no one wants to happen to any of their animals, obviously. So you just need to be aware of that and take it into account if you're going to be using this. And there we have it. It can be, like I said, this one I use more for domestic dogs as well, because you can, especially if you make one like around something like a tennis ball, you can use it to as a good kind of throw-in jobby. I've seen these get used by sailors as a leader for a heaving line as well. So if you need to gain some momentum to get a rope up over something or across a gap, a weighted heaving line is always a good option. But there you have it. That's another way of doing it. And we will be going on to the last way, the last method I'm going to show you today on how to finish a monkey fist in a minute, which is how to leave it without any tail ends coming out visibly at all. And you will be needing a sailmaker's palm and a needle. Well, you don't explicitly need the sailmaker's palm, but I would say it definitely helps. I will try to show you how to do it in a way that you don't need it, but we'll see how it goes. So we're going to take our last bit of rope and we're going to tie it up in the same way that we did with the eye splice. So we're going to, that's not the eye splice, the eye splice. So we're going to make a double overhand in the middle and then tension it up so we've just got a long tail coming out, okay? So I'll do that and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we are now at the point where we have a fully tightened little monkey fist with a stopper knot in the middle and a tail. And what we want to do is we want to get rid of the tail. Problem is, if we just cut it off and left it there, then over time, then the ends would get pulled out and you'd lose your monkey fist and you just have an unusable tangle of ropes in some meerkat's enclosure. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew it. So you want a heavy duty needle. Don't be trying to use just like long sewing needles because they will bend. This is I believe I buy them as leather needles or sail making needles. What we're going to do is we're just going to sew it up. So what we're going to do at the other end of this piece of twine is we're just going to make a little slip knot. So you see, so that it can get pulled tight. And that's how we're going to start it. You have to bear in mind, I am not a seamstress, I am not a haberdasher or whatever they call it. I am what I am and nothing more. And what we're going to do is we're just going to push through. So you don't explicitly need to pull that marlin spike through like I did there, but I find that it can help. So I'll first run through. Really, I wouldn't have wanted to have gone so far through. In fact, I might redo that. Ignore this, I'll fix it in post. I probably won't, but okay, so I have just put it through a small amount, just through the first strand, and I'm going to pull that tight, and I'm going to pull this end tight as well, and cut off that little niggly bit, because what we want is we want this to be as inconspicuous as possible if we can help it. So there we go, nice and tight. And now we're going to try and go for it again, and this time we want to be able to get through at least the first, so the middle strand, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So put through, give it a little push through. Okay, so let's come out the other side now, and we're just going to send it back straight through again, a little bit further up if we can help it. So if someone can think of a more efficient way of sewing these together, I am genuinely all for it. This is not my forte, as it were, so I am more than open to ideas on how to improve my method. So this is why you can always do with just enlarging the hole with a spike first, because obviously there's a lot of friction and it can be quite difficult. Sometimes I have had to get a pair of pliers and kind of haul on it to get the line through. But we're nearly there. So now I want to go back through and I want to try and come out near my initial line. Here it comes. There we go. And now we're just gonna do some knots to tie it off. I like to try and do some knots through that slip knot initially, just so that it can be. Whoop. That's not what you want, is it? How did that happen? Not the end of the world. If anything, that could work out quite nicely. Just half hitched onto there. Fantastic. So I just tied that off onto there. There's such a thin line that you can, as long as you tie it off and you kind of give it a good yank to get it taut, you should be all right. And that's that. So now you've got to take quite a sharp knife to do this, because you want to try and cut it as close as you can to the actual monkey fist. And then what I normally do is I try and push through as much of it as I can. Mind that you don't go through your monkey fist and stab your hand, because that's really painful. Not that I'm talking from prior experience, but I've totally done that before. And there you have it. You have your monkey fist, which is just like a ball, and you can pour scent on that. You can make a load of them and you can use it like a ball, but without any plastic, which is even better in my opinion. And it's all natural fibre, all of this, so there's nothing that could potentially damage your animals if they ingest it, other than, you know, gets a bit woody. But other than that, it's pretty safe. So have a go. I'd recommend you have a go at all of them, because obviously the more ones you try, the more times you do your monkey fist, and the better your monkey fists will be by the end of it. So give them a go. Let me know how you get on, and I hope to bring you another one at some point, another tutorial when I can think of something else to do for you. Thank you very much.